Keepers Bongbong Marcos and running mate Sara Duterte no show at the CNN Philippines presidential and vice presidential debates over the weekend. Many were disappointed but not surprised. One vice presidential candidate did not take the sitting down and called the absent tandem cowards.
The main problem that we face is the Marcos Duterte tandem. And I think that they just spat on the face of the Filipino people, telling them, you're not worth my giving you our programs because they have our programs.
In this country where voters are more swayed by candidates' popularity than their platforms, do debates really matter, or are they futile attempts to bask in what's left of democracy's former glory? Because as far as surveys are concerned, the Marcos Duterte tandem are leading the race to Malacanang. They say numbers do not lie, but how close or far are these figures from the reality on the ground? Good evening, I'm Pia Ontiveros. Welcome to your weekly political appointment fix, politics as usual. Our guests, political analyst Dindo Manhit and Octa Research fellow Guido David, joining us both via Zoom. Thank you very much, Guido and Dindo, and I'm really glad you're here on the show today. We're going to talk about debates and surveys. So let's begin with this. The question we need to tackle first is, will or does performance in a debate impact on survey rankings? Just over the weekend, we had the CNN Philippines vice presidential debate on Saturday, February 26, and the presidential debate on February 27, Sunday. When we talk about the surveys, we're talking about, well, let's call it now a pre-debate survey. We had the January 19 to 24 pulsation. We're going to bring it up on your screens in just a bit. BBM leading by by many miles, not just by a mile, many miles, 60%, 60%. Lenny Robredo coming in second with 16%, 16%. We're going to bring that up, the graphics in just a while. Also, the February 8 Octa survey. This is February 12 to 17 survey of Octa. Day 5 of the campaign. Kasi nag-umpisa ang kampanya, national campaign, February 8. So Octa's February 12 to 17 survey shows BBM at 55%, Lenny Robredo at 15%. For VP Octa, Sara Duterte 43%, Tito Soto 33%. The Lilo survey also showing BBM at 64%, Lenny at 16%. Haba ng intro. But again, Dindo and Guido, so the question is, will or does performance in a debate will it impact on survey rankings? Dindo?
Of course, debates are very important in a democratic process because it allows us to understand the positions of major candidates, and not only the positions, but really what is in their heart.
All right, I think we have a little bit of a technical internet problem, perhaps, with Dindo Manhit. Let's go to Guido David of Octa. Guido?
Yes, hi, good evening, Pia, and thank you for the invitation. And I agree with Professor Dindo that debates are important, but we have to highlight that debates are important if the public deems that platforms are important for the basis of choosing their candidates. And if we compare it, for example, to the U.S., the debates are really, it could be a turning point in a campaign because, that's when platforms and, issues are brought up. And, but of course, I can't speak for the public in general. My personal belief is that debates are important for us to identify the candidates that we want to vote on because how well do we know candidates? I mean, when we conduct surveys frequently, it shows that, a lot of Filipinos don't actually know a lot of the other candidates. And this is a time for us to discover, some other candidates that we don't know about, and at least hear what their platform and, personal, let's say principles, ideology are.
So debates are important so that we can find out, we can dissect the platforms of the candidates. But, like you have Bombo Marcos, who's attended one debate so far, the SMNI debate. It's not clear if he's going to be joining the COMELEC debates either. But he is, he's like, it looks like he's the runaway winner in the surveys.
Senator Mark, he's trying to communicate and stepping beyond really mainstream media. And because what is unique in the 2022 election is really the rise of media, social media, as a second source of news or information, as they prefer or they decide who their choices are for president. Studies have shown that it's even overtaken radio. So I think Senator Marcos has realized that there is a way to communicate directly to voters, avoiding either the discipline of fact-checking or editorial control of news, mainstream news. So he's going straight to the voters through social media.
So what he's saying is that I don't need the debates, with the exception of the SMNI survey. I don't need the debates. I'll go straight to the people. I'll campaign on the ground on Sunday during the CNN Philippines presidential debate. He was in
That's how it
Pangasinan.
looks. Yeah. So it depends on mainstream media that are very important in any functioning democracy to really define and maybe push major candidates, in this case, leading candidates, to take seriously, maybe not specific debate, but maybe even at least the COMELEC debates, whereby there will be media covering that.
Okay. Last Tuesday, I was speaking to Coco Pimentel, and we were talking about the surveys. And so, of course, Manny Pacquiao not doing very well, as the rest of the candidates, no? Number 2, 3, and 4, and 5. And Coco was saying that kasi pandemic survey ito eh. So that will explain kung bakit mababa ang ranking ng mga kandidato nila, kung bakit nangunguna si BBM. What is the truth on that, Guido? Octa does surveys. Pandemic survey ba? Talaga nagbabago ba talaga ang ihip ng hangin dahil sa pandemya? Ano ba talaga, Guido?
Well, yeah, it's not about the fact na yung ihip ng hangin ay nagbago. I think it's of course I know it's a figure of speech. But I think it's because of the Omicron surge, for example, which hit our country in January. This pushed back the timeline for the campaign period. So it could have started, it was starting, probably late December, the pre-campaign period, but it should have started in January, but it pushed it back 1 month. And although our survey was conducted February 12 to 17, you could say that it was just fresh off the start of the campaign period. And that's why, we have to, again, remind the public who are looking at the survey results that this is just a snapshot of the sentiment of the surveyed respondents at the time. And there may still be changes. We can't rule that out. And that's why we're, looking forward to the survey results this coming March. So what I'm basically saying is that because the campaign period just started, it may not have changed the pre-campaign numbers that we were seeing last year.
When are you going to do your survey in March, Guido?
Well, I have to check with the team, but it would be sometime mid to late March, and I think the big two firms, SWS and Pulse Asia, will probably have surveys sometime in March as well, probably this around this time.
Halos sabay na rin yon. If you say mid to late March, halos sabay na rin yon sa local campaign. Candidates like to say, well, the candidates na medyo nangungulalat, for lack of a better word, sa surveys, they like to say na yung survey rankings don't bother them because the only survey that matters is the one on election day, no? Pero kapag sila naman ang number one, sa kahit anong survey, paniwalang-paniwala naman sila. Lalo na, and I asked this of Coco lalo na kunyari in-house survey sila, tapos number one sila, they believe, how are candidates supposed to, react when media asks them in public na, well, what do you think of this? You're number 2, 3, or far second or far third. Tama ba yung mga sagot nilang yon?
I
Dindo?
don't really think so, Pia. No? At the end of the day, you have covered elections after elections. You've seen how credible survey firms that follows the science, the qualitative approach to this type of study has reflected we saw in actual election day. It could be what some would say political spin, or just to not let their followers feel low about where they stand. But let's accept it. These campaigns have their own surveys, and I don't think it's different from a respected, science-driven, scientific approach to getting the pulse, getting the snapshot of the preferences of the public. Of course, they are seeing what we are seeing, which is being shown to us like the Okta research or what you've said earlier, the pulse research. This is done in a way that follows certain high standards of statistical methods, scientific methods of generating preferences. It will look the same. So I don't know why they like to say that instead of accepting it. But they need to work hard. They need to convert. They need to reach out to more voters to transfer the votes or convert towards their campaign.
In other words, huwag silang in denial, no, Dindo?
Yes.
Okay. Kaya pa bang humabol ng iba? That's the big question mark. We'll be back after a quick break. Stay tuned.
SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement. Gama sa Davao, para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement. Ato ni Bay.
Welcome back. This is Politics as Usual. Still with us, political analyst Dino Manhit and Okta Research fellow Guido David. We're talking about debates and surveys. The question before the break was, kaya pa bang humabol ng iba? Because, for example, Lenny's campaign will say, uy, nag-plus 1%, no? Pero ang layo ni BBM kasi 40 percentage points ahead si Bongbong Marcos as far as the Okta Research survey is concerned. Pulse Asia, 44%. Kaya pa bang humabol, Dido?
It reminds me of where we were in previous presidential election. When you look at the January, February surveys of 2000.
Naku, sayang. Medyo may problema tayo sa signal ni Guido. We're going to get back to him in just a bit. But before that, let's go first to Guido David, who is also joining us via Zoom. Guido, ano bang mga statistical probabilities or improbabilities, if I might say so, for yung, kunyari, si Lenny, no, na humabol pa siya kay BBM?
Yes, yeah, and I think what Professor Dindo was about to say was that if we're looking at past election results, sometimes there's still a leading candidate even until mga February or even March can still be overtaken. In fact, in 2016, I'm just looking at the survey results, which seem to be fairly reliable. Senator Grace Poe was leading President Duterte at that time. Now, of course, the margin was close. And then if we're looking also at Vice President Lenny's numbers for the vice presidential candidacy in 2016, she was also, I think, behind two other candidates at this time of the year. So, you can't say na tapos ng laban And as they say, that the true survey, the real survey, will be done on May 9th. Pero, of course, if we are looking at these numbers, we have to say na, I mean, we have to be honest na their work is cut out for them. I mean, they have to work really hard to get their numbers higher if they want to catch up the leading candidate. I mean, for vice president, it's much closer, pero for president, it's you can say tapos na, but like I said, they have to work hard at it.
Pero ano yung lamang ni Grace po noong 2016? Like you said, hindi rin ganong kalaki. Not like, I mean, it's not like this. It's 40 to 40 percentage points. Diba?
Yes. In fact, it was probably less than 5% yung lamang ni Senator Grace po at that time. But still, the point was that, there could still be some changes. Yes, 45% is a really overwhelming margin of lead. But there could still be, I mean, there are sometimes inflection points in a campaign period, and a certain event may, cause certain changes. We don't know if that will happen. So I think the last thing that they want to do is give up, or at least just maintain status quo. I mean, kumbaga, if like playing a game of basketball, kung malaking lead ng kalaban mo by the second or third quarter, you really have to push hard. You can't just play your standard game.
Parang naalala ko tuloy, was it more Lorenzo of the Blue Eagles many decades ago? It's only a 40-point difference. But anyway, Dindo, you were saying earlier before your internet went down, and
Yes,
and
sorry
then
about
answer
that.
in the question, what kind of recalibration must they do if they want to win? Because apparently something's wrong somewhere, right? I mean, they cannot say na, okay kami, okay yung kampanya namin, we will overcome this like in 2016. 2016 is not 2022, right?
Yes. The reality that after a few months of actual, even unofficial campaign, right? Because we it started after the filing of the candidacy, campaign should have realized that they have failed to penetrate the voters beyond maybe their bases. In the case of VP Lenny, there are those voters that maybe they have grown from 8 to 18 to even 20%. We have seen those numbers. But can they go beyond that? Because Marcos is within that 50 to 60% mark. So I really see a possibility of a Marcos landslide or a very tight race that we will see Lenny, VP Lenny, maybe Isko, maybe gaining in their different bailiwicks. And we can see where we were in 1992, whereby former President Fidel V. Ramos won with a 24% victory. So things could happen because we are at February surveys. My analysis will be different when maybe we are in April and we still see these numbers.
About a month or two ago, I remember one of the problems, yung pinag-uusapan about the Lenny campaign was yung echo chamber, no? So parang sila-sila lang nag-uusap, sila-sila lang, yung ganun ba? Yung ba yung isang dahilan kung bakit ganito yung numbers niya, no? And what must they do, to really overcome that? Because they say that they will win. They say she will win. Well, all candidates say they'll win, no? But come on, man. This is 40%, 40 percentage points.
Every gain will be positive for them, but they really need to look at their campaign and broaden it. As I remember hearing through Pulse Asia saying that, is it possible that VP Lenny has hit a ceiling? I tend to agree, but when you hit a ceiling in a campaign, you tend to look for how do you convert other voters, or maybe build your campaign and now stay focused on where in the 81 provinces I can build and generate enough support. No, you cannot capture 81 of these provinces. You cannot reach to everyone. Be a more targeted campaign, not simply a shotgun campaign. Where that is, it depends on the campaign itself. They have to do their own strategic arithmetic maybe and see where the votes could come from and work on that. Focus their efforts on that if they'd like to convert voters.
Very interesting term you use, strategic arithmetic. There's a lot of emotion in the campaign. very, very pink emotion. That's not enough, right?
What you need is to really reach out where the target voters are. And in the case of the Philippines, a big percentage are those coming from social class D. These are people that needs to be communicated, but they need to be communicated in a different way. And there are means now that they can even be communicated through social media. But you have to go beyond, as you've said earlier, that echo chamber and really reach out to these voters.
Oh, about 2 months ago, I think that November, December, there was that point in the campaign na lumabas na yung mga volunteers were saying, alam nyo, dapat ang kausapin natin yung ating mga kasambahay, yung mga Class DE. Yung ganun ba, nakatulong ba yan sa kanila?
Any opportunity to talk, not really to look down at this social class. Why define them as kasambahay? The reality, these are Filipino voters being challenged by low income, more so now, 2 years into a pandemic where we are suffering from the economic consequences of this continuing health crisis. You cannot look down at them, but basically trying to reach out to them emotionally, that maybe we can really build something together, work with a candidate that can truly be the one that can improve their lives. We have seen data that shows, and we have commissioned some questions with both Pulse Asia and Social Weather Station, that they want somebody who's pro-poor, somebody that is honest and trustworthy, somebody that is not corrupt. So can other candidates offer themselves that? Because right now it seems that is Mr. Marcos.
Yeah, pro-poor, honest, not corrupt, and if the surveys are to be believed, then people are thinking that is BBM,
Yes,
right? Okay.
that's why.
Yeah,
Because
let's
he builds his narrative on that argument. So you have to counter that narrative. You have to challenge that narrative, and maybe try to put some doubt on that narrative.
challenging, countering, or putting doubt on that narrative, was it enough for Lenny to say, sinungaling kasi siya? Yes or no?
I'm not sure. Let's see
Right.
how the voters will react to that.
Yeah.
You
More
can
from our
only
guests.
analyze the data that we see from legitimate surveys, but the strategy has to be built by the campaign itself.
Okay.
Yeah,
More from our
we
guests
tested.
when we return. This is Politics as Usual. We have to take a quick break.
SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement. Gama sa Davao, para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement. Ato ni Bay.
This is the final stretch of Politics as Usual. Our guest, political analyst, Professor Guido Manhit, and Octa Research Fellow, Guido David. Guido, some people like to say na may mga online surveys, yung mga surveys na ginagawa sa daan. Pero there are legitimate survey firms, right? So give us give people a reminder, no? Which surveys should we believe in?
Yes, and yeah, there's nothing illegal about conducting your own survey. For example, I can survey my own household or my group of friends, my students, people that I know. But when we conduct surveys like this, and this is not far from what we're seeing, for example, in Calgary surveys, how representative is this of the voting population? And that's the difference between a proper methodology, which is properly sampled, because we could take 1,000 people and survey them, but if they're from the same demographic, this will not project to the voting population, and that's why the established firms conduct face-to-face surveys. Firstly, we make sure that the respondents are registered voters and they are in the Philippines. They're not answering online from somewhere from outside the country, and that they're legitimate respondents, and that they will and because of the sampling, we can project this to the entire population and get a reasonable margin of error with for the projections. So online surveys and Calya surveys will not be representative because online sometimes you can have multiple accounts responding to
Right.
the survey, and there like I said, if it's not representative, then it may not project properly and be a good guide. I mean, and let's remember, as Professor Dindo mentioned a while ago, I mean, it's really for the end user, for the candidates themselves, so that they can recalibrate properly if they have to make adjustments to their strategies, and not just go for the status quo.
Okay, very quickly now, we have a minute to go, and my last question would be this. No, in the weeks preceding the deadline for filing of COCs last October, ang pinag-uusapan, what they tried to do was to unite Lenny, Isko, Manny, and Ping, and of course they didn't. No, so will it do any good now? Is it going to help them? Because if they really want to beat BBM, will it help them if they try if they do an attempt at unity now, Dindo?
Maybe it's too late for that. But I think what can be done by them collectively as individual campaigns is really to focus on who their opponents are. In this case, it's really targeting the one on top and try to counter the narratives being shared in multiple platforms, mainstream or social media, by Senator Marcos. And that's how they can compete. But it's too late for unity at this time.
Oo. Pero yeah, compete. Tinitira na nga nila si BBM, pero ang lakas pa rin, di ba? But anyway, sige, Guido.
I don't think it's at a level whereby, when you look at VP Lenny, I always say that she is the most bullied public official in social media since she left the cabinet of President Duterte. So there has to be that counter narrative.
All right, 15 seconds.
We have not seen what has transpired. Really, it's not happening in mainstream media, but in social media itself. So they have to look at and focus on who they need to challenge, really, and that's Mr. Marcos at this time. That's why Mr. Marcos or Senator Marcos is avoiding debates.
15 seconds. Sorry, Guido.
Yes, well, we only have 2 months left of campaign, so they definitely have to consider their strategies carefully. And as Professor Dindo mentioned, they're probably not penetrating certain demographics as well as they should, and that is basically hurting their campaigns.
Guido David and Dindo Manhit, thank you so much for being with us tonight. We've been told before, don't talk politics at the dinner table or the family reunion or in Viber groups and risk digital warfare. But we can talk about it here at this table on this show, your weekly political appointment fix, politics as usual. I'm Pio Ontiveros. See you back here next Tuesday, 8:30 p.m.
Ciao.